Hi guys, welcome back to the Love and Science channel. Today we're going to talk about this solar eclipse that's coming up in Scorpio. And before we get started on that, a couple of things. We have this really amazing masterclass weekend coming up, the Love and Science Masterclass weekend. We're going to have our very own Sam with her quantum jumping. She'll be doing a masterclass. We have a Venus Rose Cycle masterclass held by Gracie. And we have some ancient tools for the modern mind, some shamanic practices with Amy. Really excited to have this masterclass. If you want to be a part of this, it's 4 classes, 1 weekend, 1 price. You get all of us for 1 low price. I'm going to have that link in the description box below. My masterclass, I'll be talking about designing peace for your life, and it looks different for everybody. Like, I'm not going to pretend that I know how everybody needs to design peace in their life. That's not what this is going to be about. This is going to be about taking steps for you to find your own personal, unique way of finding peace in your life and have it long lasting. A lot of times people will find some peace for a short amount of time and then it goes away when things become chaotic and stuff like that. So we'll work on some tools and just things that you can do. Easy things, you guys. It's really not even, some of this stuff is a little bit difficult to do because it's more of an emotional, like having to get honest with ourselves kind of thing, but that's never easy. So join us. This will be the Halloween weekend. It'll be the 29th and the 30th. And again, you're going to get 4 amazing teachers for 1 low price. Like, this is kind of an amazing offer, and that link will be in the description box. I also have opened up my November calendar for my 6-month readings. And if you've never had a 6-month reading from me before, they're always accurate, as from what I've heard. But you'll get, if you do this pre-sale, you will also receive December, and you'll also have an option to add your astrology overview for each month to the reading. So I have some spots open in November for that if you're interested. That link is also in the description box, and anything that I make with my readings, that goes directly to my medical expenses. There's a lot of them and they happen every day. So here we are. Let's talk really quick. I want you guys to look. This is the solar eclipse chart. So we have here, the solar eclipse will be happening in Scorpio at 2 degrees, and it will be happening October 25th, 4:48 a.m. Mountain Time, which means it's 6:48 a.m. Eastern Time, and it'll be 3:48 a.m. Pacific Time. And we're already really feeling the effects of this eclipse. I'm not sure if you guys have noticed how tired you are lately. I actually cannot keep my eyes open past like 6 o'clock these days, 6 o'clock in the evening, and my eyes are closed and like I'm done for the rest of the day. But it's just been this huge call to rest and this huge like taking care of yourself and paying attention to the foods that you're putting into your body and stuff like that. Like yesterday, I had a day where all I wanted to do was eat red meat and noodles and mashed potatoes, like anything heavy, like any of those heavy foods. I just wanted to like put them into my body, and then I just wanted to sleep. Like, I think I was napping off and on yesterday, but all week long I've been napping off and on. It's been kind of just like during those times. But so eclipses are on the nodes, right? So we've talked about having the North Node in Taurus and the South Node in Scorpio. We've talked about that quite a bit in the last couple of years. Last year, I guess. The nodes will be shifting next year in 2023. But having this these nodes, this is where the eclipse line is, because these are the lunar nodes. So the closer we get to the degree of the node, the more the eclipse. So this isn't going to be a full eclipse. It's just a partial eclipse because we're at the 2-degree mark. And eclipse season, because then we'll do the full moon, the full lunar eclipse in Taurus will be next for eclipse season. And eclipse season, you know, there's a really big argument on what to do during eclipse season. Do we manifest during eclipse season? This is the moon after all. And this particular solar eclipse in Scorpio will also be conjunct Venus in Scorpio at 2 degrees, like almost exactly, if you can see down here in the 2nd house. And so oftentimes when we have a benefic planet like Venus transiting with the eclipse, we want to feel like we can manifest things. Eclipse season is really about closing things out. It happens every 6 months. It's not something to be afraid of. But you've probably already noticed some pretty big changes that are happening in your life wherever Scorpio is in your chart. So if you look wherever Scorpio is in your chart right now, you'll be able to see the area of your life that this eclipse will be in. For example, it's funny that this chart is showing that Scorpio is in the 2nd house because that's where my Scorpio lands, in my 2nd house, because this is a Libra rising chart. And so for me, the eclipse is showing me in a lot of ways where the money that I make for myself, the material items that I have for myself, how that's changing. I also have Uranus in Scorpio in my 2nd house. So I'm really, really, really used to changes when it comes to my environment and the things that I do. If I'm not constantly like upgrading my environment and making better for my environment, then I feel stagnant. Then I feel like there's not really a lot of things that I can do with myself. Because my environment is I'm emotionally attached to it. I also have the moon in Sagittarius in the 2nd house as well. So I have this attachment to my environment where I'm like emotionally attached to it. So if I'm not upgrading my environment as I upgrade myself, I feel very stagnant. I feel like I'm kind of stuck in one place. And this eclipse, it's, you know, when we go through eclipse seasons for years and years and years and years, and we recognize the things that we need to purge and the things that we need to release and the things that we need to let go of, and we're doing that on a constant, then eclipse season sometimes can bring you blessings in. If there's like if you see change as a blessing, if you can see the shifts and the changing of things that are happening right now as a huge blessing in your life instead of a curse, eclipse season is a breeze. If you can allow yourself to be flexible, if you can witness yourself in different ways and recognize that this is for growth and it's not just to drag you down, eclipse season can be a really big blessing. Saying that, the North Node and the South Node in Taurus and Scorpio, these are the things that we really want to look at. When it comes to Taurus is the natural ruler of the 2nd house. And so there's a lot of self-worth when it comes to our environment and the things that we want and the things that we need. And the things that we work very hard for. Excuse me, it's telling me to take my medicine. The things that we work really, really hard for. So when we look at Scorpio is naturally seated in the 8th house. And whereas the 2nd house is where we make our own money and we have our own self-worth and we have our own material environments, the 8th house is where we share resources with other people. And we have been on this axis for the last year, when actually it was December of 2021 when the North Node regressed into Taurus, because the North Node always goes backwards. It always regresses and it doesn't ingress. So it'll regress. And this time it's going to regress into Aries after we have this Taurus North Node and Scorpio South Node. Getting a little ahead of myself there. But so with this new moon in Scorpio, whatever house that you're in, I also want you to recognize the death and rebirth cycle that we're going through. But not just that. I want you to recognize the relationships that you have with other people. Oftentimes, this Scorpio energy can show us how to have deeper relationships with people, but it's really, really uncomfortable if we're not used to having deeper relationships with people. The way that we have had to learn how to kind of take back our own power with Chiron and Aries and the North Node in Scorpio and Uranus in Scorpio. I don't know if you guys remember when Uranus and Mars and I'm not Scorpio, Taurus. When Uranus, Mars, and the North Node were all in Taurus earlier this year. And we talked about how we were like fighting for the cause. And really, you know, there was just a lot of having to change the way that we see our natural resources and the way that we see how we've been using our resources. This solar eclipse is how are we using other people's resources? How are we working with other people to better ourselves, to better the environment, to better life in general? It's not just about death and rebirth. It's not just about our taxes. It's not just like all of these things come up where it's like, oh, 8th house is so bad. It's so bad. It's so bad. But when it comes down to it, it's really about us learning how to have deeper relationships with other people in our lives. Because most of us, like, let's just be honest, most of us did not learn how to have deeper relationships with other people. So having Venus conjunct this solar eclipse is a blessing. It's a huge, huge blessing for us to see how we are placing our own worthiness in the hands of other people, how we are placing our own love in the hands of other people. Are we giving it back to ourselves, or are we creating more chaos outside of all of it? Do you see what I'm saying? So, this is really going to be a testimony of how things have changed for you. You know, the patterns that we have when it comes to relationships, we really have to look at those patterns in a big way. And this solar eclipse is probably going to be very loud about the patterns that we have with the relationships that we have with others. And, you know, I'm just such a firm believer that the more you concentrate on how you're loving yourself, if you're loving yourself better, it's going to be easier to love other people as well. And that's what the Taurus Scorpio axis really reminds us of often. You know, if we are giving back to our own self-worth, if we are, you know, growing in ways for us, it's going to be so much better and so much easier to be able to see the path when it comes to being there for other people. If you are having to depend on others, like say, for example, you work for somebody else and you are benefiting them through working for them, and you recognize that that is no longer in alignment with your own worthiness, this eclipse season is going to show that to you very, very loudly. If you have this eclipse happening in your 11th house, for example, if you have Scorpio in your 11th house and this eclipse is happening in your 11th house, you may recognize that the friends in the community that you have been wrapped in and involved in for a very long time, that may be something that's shifting and changing. You may be recognizing that, you know, because you're worthy, maybe the people that you were hanging out with didn't see you as worthy as much as you would like them to. It just doesn't feel good anymore. The word icky keeps on coming up. So wherever it is that you're feeling a little bit icky and you know that there needs to be a change, and you know that there's no longer a place for you there, there's going to be a removal. That's not always gentle. So be gentle with yourself first and foremost during this time. And know, you know, and even within like the next 2 weeks, you know, before we have the lunar eclipse in Taurus, it's, you know, that you have to remind yourself constantly during this time that it is a time to release. It's time to wash your hands of things that no longer are aligned with you and aligned with your purpose. That doesn't have to be a whole gigantic negative. It just doesn't. Like, if we as a community were to be able to consciously say, wow, this relationship just isn't for me anymore, and have that conversation with the person and say, there's nothing wrong with you and there's nothing wrong with me. We just don't align on this journey anymore. If we could do that more often, then there would feelings would still get hurt. Of course, that happens. But if we were able to do that more often, there's an opportunity for us to love each other through the conscious quote unquote breakups, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a family member, whether it's a romantic involvement, whether it's at work, things like that. So, and a lot of that has to do with being honest and using our words and speaking our truths. And we can't do that if we don't feel worthy enough inside to do it. If we don't think that our words mean something, then it can be a lot more difficult to do things like that. So I do want to get a surrender card. I've been using these often. They're actually Henry's Oracle cards. But it's from The Power of Surrender. Oh, I don't know. The light is going to be all shiny and stuff on them. Sorry about that. The glare that always happens. Okay. So we're going to get a surrender card and see what it is that this solar eclipse is that we are surrendering to. What is it that we're surrendering to? Oh, awesome. I love these two. Okay. So we have surrender to prayer. Give yourself over completely to prayer. When you pray from your heart, you'll be heard through the universe, and answers and support will arrive. So if there are things going on in your life, sorry about that glare. I think I'm going to fix that. Hold on one second. I don't know that I was able to fix that at all, to be honest, but here we are. Okay. So we have surrender to prayer. And then the other one is surrender to inner peace. And these go together really, really well. So we'll talk about it after I read this one. Cultivate inner peace on a daily basis in quiet meditative moments. Focus on the stillness within and enjoy this inner refuge. Others will feel your good vibes too, and your life will flow more easily. So if you feel like things are just like super duper overwhelming during this time, I'm just really living on faith these days. In a lot of ways, I am a 12th house native, so that's sort of my calling to do, is to live by faith, and to trust the unknown, and to know that I am more taken care of in the unknown than I am anywhere else. So surrendering yourself to stillness, inner peace, prayer, offering up all of the everything, just everything that is really heavy on your heart, just offering this all up to, whoever you pray to. Doesn't have to be God. It can be whatever deity that you pray to. It could be whatever energy that you pray to. It could be your ancestors' altar that you're praying to. Whoever it is that you feel comfortable praying to and putting everything in the hands of them, then that during this time, it's really about faith. So let's look at some cards. Oh, wow. Let's try and get a full shuffle before we start having the cards flying out. Okay, let's try that again. Here we go. Oh, wow. All right. For some of you, money is a really big struggle right now, and resources are a really big struggle right now. And that's 100%, You know, I mean, it's funny because we think that we're the only ones that are struggling within that. And, you know, that is happening across the board to a lot of people. So there's this ending that's occurring. Okay, that's where I'm stopping. They only wanted me to take out 5 cards today. So we have the 10 of Pentacles. Love me some 10 of Pentacles. We have the 5 of Wands. Sorry for the glare, you guys. We have the Page of Pentacles. We have Judgment. Da, 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 da. And we have the 10 of Swords. Lovely. Okay. So there feels like an inner turmoil. That 5 of Wands really feels like an inner turmoil with this. It's like you have this idea of what the ultimate, that 10 of Pentacles, the ultimate happiness, this destination type idea of the way that you want your life to look. But it feels like it's a struggle. It feels like you've been fighting for it. It feels like this is really, really difficult for you to get through. And I feel like what the cards are saying to you right now is it's not about you struggling. Life is not, it's, you know, one of the things that I've learned more than anything, and I wish it didn't take people to get sick for something like this, like a terminal illness like I have. I want it to not get to that point for other people. Like, I want you guys to understand that you can have peace now. You can have peace, you know, before you find out that you have something, because that's the way that humans work. We end up with like a terminal illness diagnosis, and all of a sudden our entire perspective on life changes. And I want that perspective in life to change for people before, you know, I don't want you to have to get a terminal illness diagnosis for you to change your perspective on life. So let's look at this in a different kind of way. Instead of struggling, instead of purposefully putting yourself in stressful situations that you know have been stressful over and over and over and over again, instead of forcing yourself to do things that don't feel good or don't feel right for your body, it's time for you to look in a different direction. It's time for you to understand that there is a massive ending that's coming. And so the Judgment card is a major arcana, and we look at major arcanas as like road signs in our lives. These are the directions that we should be going in. Sometimes instead we decide to take the detour instead of paying attention to the actual road sign that we need to be going to. And a lot of times we'll detour away from this because of how painful the ending is, right? This 10 of Swords is a very painful ending that can occur. So when we are faced with a painful ending, or when we're faced, not even a painful ending, but a painful realization that maybe a pattern needs to end, or a certain mindset that we have needs to end, when things like that happen and we recognize that it's time to start something new, right? This Page of Pentacles is saying that instead of fighting the old course of action that you were in, it's time to start something new. And oftentimes after something very difficult, ending something very difficult, we start a new path. The Page of Pentacles is sort of the student, right? And he's beginning a new journey in his life. So let's look at the 10 of Pentacles. The overall abundance, the overall happiness. We have an idea of the way that we want to look. We want our lives to look. And wow, we've got another 10. There's a lot of endings that are happening here during this eclipse season, which is normal. It's natural. It's a cycle, right? This is just the cycle of life that we go through. Eclipse seasons help us to do our cleaning. We clean things up during eclipse season. 10 of Wands on the 10 of Pentacles. You know how hard you've been working. You know the burdens that you've been carrying. That 10 of Wands has not been an easy journey for you to have. And sometimes it's really frightening when you've worked really, really hard for one thing and you thought that that's the way that you wanted your life to look. And then you realize, man, I just keep fighting for this thing that I thought that I wanted so much. And I don't want to have to fight anymore. I don't want to have to use all of my energy for something that doesn't want me back. You know, when you're restricted and you're fighting against something, does it really want you? Is your energy really aligned to that? So reminding yourself that even, you know, through these ups and downs, and yes, you fought really hard for that situation and that work, you know, like this is reminding me very much of how hard I worked to become a project manager in telecommunications. I started in telecom in like 2005, I think it was. And quickly, very quickly, within just a couple of years, ended up becoming a project manager in telecom just by learning, you know, and it was a really difficult path to take, but I did it. And I did it as a single mother. And I, you know, I mean, it was not an easy thing that I did, but I did it. And when I decided to change from being in telecommunications to being a tarot reader on YouTube, I was like, what the fuck do I think I'm doing? Like, this is ridiculous. But it was necessary. It was necessary for my soul to grow. And I didn't know 5 years ago, 5 years ago when I decided that I was going to just quit everything that I'd worked so hard for in my life and start over again. I didn't know how many blessings I was going to have during the way. I didn't know how hard it was going to be. I didn't know, like, all of these things. It was all unknown, right? It was very much unknown. And I struggled through a lot of that. And then I realized that being kinder to myself instead of struggling through everything. So we have the Knight of Cups with the 9 of Pentacles on that 5 of Wands. So instead of fighting it, right? 5 of Wands, instead of fighting for it. It's so funny because I'm trying a new thing where my camera's up here and I can see myself on the screen down here, so it looks funny. But this Knight of Cups and the 9 of Pentacles, I literally just want to say, pour love on yourself. Take a big old cup of love. I know that sounds really silly and kind of obnoxious, but it's true. If I've learned one thing in this life, it is the kinder I am to myself, the kinder I am to my body, the kinder I am to my mind, the more graceful I age. And the more graceful I grow. And the more evolved I become. Because the more you pour love on yourself, it's easier to pour love on to other people and other situations and other things and, you know, destinations and whatever it is that you truly, truly want out of life. The more you pour love on it within you, the easier it is to pour love on it in the external. That 9 of Pentacles is being abundant and independent all on your own. And it's not about having somebody else tell you how abundant and independent you can be. And it's not about having somebody else tell you how amazing you are. It's about you being able to do that for yourself. And it's and recognizing, you know, people will argue with me when I say this. But if you struggle with something in life, if you're struggling in your job, if you're struggling in your relationship, if you're struggling and struggling and struggling, and that's all you're doing is struggling and fighting for it, that's going to be your downfall. It's not going to be the actual relationship. It's going to be the struggle that you have. Because you're not listening to what your soul desires and what your soul needs. So let's see what the Page of Pentacles. Let's see that directional change. Oh, look at that. Judgment. We're going to get the 10 of Swords. Y'all, bottom of the deck. Oh, you can't see that because it's glaring. Wow. Bottom of the deck is the Page of Cups. Okay. So I said, what is that directional change going to be? And out jumped the Star and the Wheel of Fortune on the Page of Pentacles. Surrender. Surrender to your path, surrender to your journey. Even if you don't know what that looks like right now, you surrender. The Star always reminds me of the North Node. And the Wheel of Fortune is that positive shift. So once you remove yourself, or once you allow yourself to say, I no longer want to struggle, I'm done struggling. I'm done struggling with this person. I am done struggling with this situation. I am done struggling with this job. I'm done struggling in this environment. I am done struggling. And you put your foot down and you decide, I'm going to be kinder to it. I'm going to be kinder to the environment. I'm going to be kinder to the person. I'm going to be kinder to myself. And that's hard to do. But when you decide to do that, you will clearly see by the way that the environment reacts, by the way that the person reacts, by the way that the job reacts. And if you don't want to give any more of your time and energy and space to it, even better. You don't have to forgive. You don't have to love. You don't have to do anything to your externals that you don't want to do, especially when you're in that healing mode, right? So there's this shift that's taking you directly to your wish. That star, I always want to call it the North Node because I think of the North Star with it. That star is telling you that you are getting redirected. You're getting realigned on your path. And it may feel like it's the very beginning of something. You may have to learn new ways of being, but that means that you're breaking patterns. I have a friend who's been through a lot in the last 2 years. COVID has taken away loved ones. There's just been a lot that's happened in the last 2 years. And I had to tell her to rest this week. Like, you get to sleep. You get to rest. You have been through a lot. Your nervous system needs to heal. And I don't know how many times I will remind people until I'm blue in the face that resting is just as productive as being busy. If you are busy, and you just ruin all of your energy and you give it all to things and people and situations that, this is a very Six of Pentacles thing. I'm surprised that didn't come out. But if you are depleting yourself for the betterment of somebody else and you're not resting for yourself, that's going to end in disaster. You don't need to know. You don't need to know what's next. You don't need to know what the next step is. Just wake up the next morning. Be grateful for what you have in front of you. We have such a destination addiction in this country. We always want to know where we're headed. We always want to know what the end goal is. We always want to know. We always want to know. We always want to know. That Seven of Cups on Judgment. It's okay if you're confused. It's okay if you have a lot of options. Having a lot of options is better than not having any at all. It's okay if things don't work out exactly the way that you thought they were going to work out, because the universe is right behind you. This angel here is making sure that you're being provided for and taken care of. Might not be in the way that you thought it was going to be. And then we have, I love this. It's almost as if Spirit has a sense of humor. So on the Ten of Swords, we have the High Priestess. Trust in yourself. Trust in your own gut feelings. Creating a safe space within yourself when things are difficult, when things feel scary, when things feel hard. Nobody said life was going to be easy. Nobody said life was going to be easy. And for some reason, we all sort of grew up thinking that life was supposed to be easier on us. You can make your life easier. You can make your suffering go away. But you do that by faith. And you do that through trust. And you do that through surrender. We all have a choice in the amount of suffering that we do. And a lot of times the suffering comes along because I want with the Page of Cups. And what I want you to do is to walk away from the things that you think that you want so desperately, the things that you think are going to make you happy in your life, and just live your life. Stop making choices that you would have made years ago to fill up your cup. Thinking that anything from the external is going to make you feel better or is going to fill you up is always going to disappoint you in the end. You know what's never going to disappoint you? Showing up for yourself and having faith in yourself and trusting in yourself. All right. I love you guys. Thanks for hanging out with me for another Fearless Intuition episode. I am doing readings right now because I feel good. I feel good enough to do readings, and I'm excited that I feel good enough to do readings. And I like to fill my days up with things that bring me joy, and doing readings for people bring me joy. So I do have a $60 30-minute live reading, or you could get the reading recorded for 30 minutes for $60. I have my 6-month readings available that I love doing my 6-month readings for my clients. I think that I've also discounted an astrology reading as well. I've also discounted the mindful coaching. So if you're in a kind of a weird spot in your life and you just need to be able to like talk it out with somebody and get some like feedback, some intuitive feedback, we'll do some card readings. We'll look and see what the astrology is doing. So I have some spots for that as well. So I love you guys. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you for that full moon eclipse in a couple weeks. Bye.